I mean, I don't think it's a secret. I'm not a huge fan of Governor Whitmer, but I don't understand the reasoning of having to notify anyone of when she leaves the state. Like, I get it during the pandemic.
Yes.
I get that. But under normal circumstances, why is that a necessary function?
It
I don't
feels like they're just trying to keep
turn right onto Dixie Highway.
They want to know wherever she goes.
It's just another political they want to jab her. I mean,
So they're
obviously
saying
the bill would, if it passes, would take, a hold for any governor, no matter what party.
Of course.
But as long as
In half a mile, take a slight right turn to merge onto I-75 south toward Detroit.
Who cares?
Right.
I'm with you. I mean, I don't care when she leaves the state or when
Stay
anybody
in the
leaves the
middle
state. I don't care. But that's what's happening. So there they have it. This is a pretty cool story. For the 11th year in a row, every single senior at Detroit Loyola High School has graduated and been accepted to college. So this is great. The principal credits the hard work of the students
Go past
and their
this light,
parents during
then use
COVID.
the right lane to
and
take a
also sexual encounters in their life, and a third of us say that they have fallen asleep during sex. That's
Doing it wrong.
shocking. Yeah, exactly. And then the poll, I guess, also looked at some sex injuries, and 57% of people who hurt themselves while in the act say that it happened in the shower. And that makes sense.
Yeah, you slip in the shower. Absolutely.
It's like
Yeah, lose your balance, maybe you tweak your back.
Maybe you accidentally have the water on too high, maybe it's scalded. I don't know.
There's a lot of possibilities.
Lots.
Possibilities. All right.
I don't think I'm probably the worst my wife has ever had, but I'm sure it's the best. Ever been hurt? Have I ever been hurt? No. I don't think so.
Not even a cramp.
I'm going through my roll. Oh, cramps, yes. I'm going through my roll. No. All right, thank you very much, Heather. Coming up next, the Aardvark has stepped down. We'll discuss where he ranks in the reigns of greatest coaches of all time in all sports. 97-1.
97.1 on ticket. Traffic.
From the WWJE and 950 Traffic Center, still looking at a fairly quiet drive in and around the city this morning. No problems making your way in or out of downtown. Just a few scattered things going on. One of them is a crash on 94 eastbound at Woodward, where the right shoulder is affected. You'll find traffic is starting to build on 75 southbound near 12 Mile. And of course, Hines Drive is closed due to flooding from Outer Drive to Ann Arbor Trail. I'm Michelle Pena with traffic.
Better bets, bet smarter, and beat the books today. Download the BetQL app today to better your chances.
This is Boomer Esiason with an Odyssey Sports Minute. The Celtics, still reeling from their first-round loss to the Brooklyn Nets, announced that Danny Ainge is stepping down as president and that head coach Brad Stevens would move up to succeed him. Meantime, Duke announced that the legendary coach Mike Krzyzewski will retire after this coming season and that his former star and current assistant John Shire will be the next Blue Devils head coach. Although these two events are unrelated, it is interesting that of all the NBA jobs Krzyzewski turned down, the Celtics opportunity was the one that intrigued him the most. I recently interviewed Coach K for Game Time, and I asked him about the difference between coaching collegians and professionals. In college, he told me, you are helping youngsters cross the bridge to become better and become men. The pros, they've crossed that bridge, so it's about mutual ownership. It's about us. Congratulations, Coach K, on a fabulous career. Can't wait to see what your last year looks like. I'm Boomer Esiason.
Credit Karma Money is a brand new checking account where you can win daily Instant Karma purchase reimbursements on items up to $5,000. Over $3 million in Instant Karma has already been given away to over 50,000 Credit Karma members and counting. Visit creditkarma.com/winmoney now to open your free account and start winning Instant Karma. That's creditkarma.com/winmoney. Instant Karma is sponsored by Credit Karma. No purchase necessary. Exclusions and terms apply. See rules. Banking services provided by MVP Bank Inc. Member FDIC. Maximum balance and transfer limits apply.
For the ones who get going when the going gets tough. And the ones who know we're tougher together. For the Pathfinders breaking new ground. Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as fast access to experts and 24/7 customer support. Because we know you have people depending on you. So you can always depend on us. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Imagining life without joint pain may be easier than you think. The Detroit Medical Center's orthopedic experts specialize in surgical and non-surgical solutions for hip and knee pain. This includes minimally invasive joint replacement surgery designed to help you recover quicker and with less pain compared to traditional joint replacement. Make an appointment with a DMC orthopedic specialist at 1-888-DMC-2500 or visit dmc.org/jointpain.
It's happening. DTE is building a stronger grid. Right here, right now. A smarter grid that's more resilient, for better reliability. One that delivers more clean, affordable energy.
Of course, it's fallen on your power lines. Fallen trees are responsible for nearly 70% of the time DTE customers are without power. So DTE is stepping up efforts to trim overgrown trees to keep you safe and the electric grid reliable. And it works. Where we've completed tree trimming, customers have had 60% fewer outages. Learn more at dteenergy.com/tree care. DTE.
Refinancing your mortgage with Home Financial does more than just lower your monthly payment. You can shorten the term of your loan or tap into some of your home's equity. Take advantage of historically low interest rates. Call 248-308-5000 or go to davidhallmortgage.com.
What are you waiting for? It only takes an hour for you to have your child's heart screened. Get your kid's heart checked at the Ernst Cardiovascular Center at Beaumont Hospital in Royal Oak. Details at 971theticket.com. There are no sweeter sounds. Hear the game. All the play-by-play all season is on 97.1 The Ticket and the Odyssey app. Live from the Jamie Samuelson studio, here's Tony and Jansen.
97.1 The Ticket. A lot of coaching news yesterday. Out of nowhere, they lost on Tuesday night, and their season ended. The Boston Celtics. I'm talking about losing to the Brooklyn Nets, and then yesterday they announced that Danny Ainge will step down as the head honcho of the Celtics. Brad Stevens, who's been their head coach for it's unbelievable. He still has that baby face.
Yeah.
He's been their coach for like 8 years, I believe.
Yes.
So he steps down and moves up to the front office, which enraged some people. We'll get into that later because they really didn't do any type of search. And even though he was a head coach, he really didn't have any experience in running the ship. And we'll get into that later. But I understand it. Ainge has had some health issues, and maybe the Celtics need something different. But maybe like less than 2 hours later, and the skeptical side of me says, the aardvark needs some attention. But no, Mike Krzyzewski, who, despite my disdain for him the last few years, because I think he's turned into a phony, I'm not an idiot. The greatest coach in college basketball history. I'm sorry, John Wooden. It was a little different game back then. Krzyzewski has just been great. The last few years hasn't been as good, obviously, but he put Duke more or less on the map. I mean, look, they were always good in the ACC, but nothing like that when he took over back in the 80s, late 80s.
I think, I'll ask you this question. I know it's hard to compare eras for players because the game is different.
Completely different.
Is it as hard to compare coaches because of eras? Because John Wooden obviously coached in a much different era where it was different recruiting, different player evaluation, players stayed longer.
Well, you're talking about like Wooden per se. And look, he should get a lot of credit. There's no doubt about it. The Wizard of Westwood, Bill Walton, Jabbar, and Alcindor back then, all the great players. But it was a different game back then. Okay, even the NCAA tournament was so different. It was all regionalized. So basically, all they had to do was win 2 games, and they're in the Final Four at one point. 3 games, maybe tops. And they only played teams in the West. So they'd always play UCLA versus like Santa Clara to get to the Final Four. And it was like, really? So they didn't have much competition. But look, it is a different era. Krzyzewski and today's coaches, the recruiting is just, it's sick, it's crazy. Now, you go back to UCLA for a second. There's always been these stories of a guy named, I believe his name was Sam Gilbert. They were giving money to these kids for years.
But again, it's a different era. Yeah.
I mean, the big thing with that is it's a 16 tournament.
Right.
I mean, come on.
But so that's why I say I think it's impossible to make that comparison.
And by region, I mean, the ACC, you only had one team from the ACC could make the NCAA. You didn't have, all you had was automatic bids, really. There were very few at-large selections. I mean, the ACC, whoever won the ACC tournament got the NCAA tournament. That was it. So you had a great team. North Carolina, Duke some years, Maryland, NC State, great teams who couldn't even get into the NCAA tournament. And that's why, to a lesser extent, the NIT was somewhat important back then. Now it's obviously meaningless for the most part.
Yeah.
So, looking back,
disagree with that at all. I think he should be in there. Obviously, you mentioned Coach K. I think if we're going to stay in the college realm for just a minute, you also have to look in terms of women's basketball. And I think you got Gino Auriemma and Pat Summitt.
Right.
Who are, I think, terrific. Not just terrific. They are excellent and the best at what they do. And Pat Summitt, when she was coaching at Tennessee, was, a lot of people would rival her against Coach K, Dean Smith,
right,
in regards to developing talent, recruiting, building a program.
The only thing I would put on the minus side for her, and even Auriemma to a certain extent, the level of competition was not what it is now. Now Gino's, they didn't win this year, but early on in Connecticut's run and Tennessee's run, and even some other schools back then, you had about 4 or 5 teams that were good, and that was it. So now it's much more competitive, more of an even playing field. Okay, out of college, Scotty Bowman. Scotty Bowman won championships with, Montreal, Pittsburgh, and the Red Wings, obviously. He took an expansion team. Now, granted, they're in one conference, so somebody had to make the finals, but they made the finals, 3 straight years, got swept 3 straight years, but they were pretty, decent teams. He did a great coaching job with the St. Louis Blues early on. And he was able to win in any era, in any decade. And that's what, to me, Scotty Bowman is right up there. The greatest of all time in any sport. Doesn't get enough of the publicity because it's hockey. Now, the detractors of Scotty Bowman say, well, he always had great teams. Well, sometimes great teams don't win.
So I'm going to give you another one then, because he did always have great talent on his teams. He was able to do it with 2 different franchises, and that's Phil Jackson.
Yeah. To me, it's I don't know. When you have Michael,
did I strike another chord?
No, not really. I mean, handshakes like a fish, but other than that, no. But when you have, seriously though, I'm not gonna sit there and say he's a bad coach or he's not a good. Look, he did a great job. He had to massage egos and things like that on that team. But when you have arguably the greatest player ever, and then in your second go round, you have Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah.
It's not too difficult to win.
Well, I agree, but I think in terms of managing those egos, and when we watch The Last Dance and you watch what was going on with Rodman, what was going on with Scottie Pippen, and everything behind the scenes, I think it was amazing what he did, and more as a psychologist than as a coach, and that's part of being a head coach. It's a huge part of it.
But doesn't what happened in 04 take away from it? Not to be too, parochial about our Pistons. I mean, you had, if the egos needed to be massaged and made into a better team, that was the year where it really needed to work. And
well, so, okay, you got one outlier, right, and then you've got a lot of championships, you've got a lot of seasons where he was able to get it done. Yeah, he had a lot of talent, but he was able to get that talent to play at a high level, play together, and stay together.
Yeah.
I just wonder why that gets used against Phil, and it should be with the teams and players he's had, but Scotty had talent like that too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. He's the greatest defenseman ever, maybe.
Yeah, Lemieux in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And in Montreal, that team was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another great defenseman too.
Right. And well, the other thing, because Scotty, the one team he didn't win with was Buffalo, and they weren't great. They weren't great. They had Barrasso, I believe, was on that team, and some other players. But you're right.
I think at some point we got to talk about some NFL coaches.
Oh, I know.
I think there's
I know.
A huge debate on who could be the greatest coach of all time, and it's gonna when you talk about some of these guys, you're gonna have to talk about the greatest coaches in any sport, and it's not just what they were able to do, but some of their staffs, the coaching of the coaches. Because there's some trees that are terrific, and I think we should get to that next.
All right. Our telephone number is 248-539-9797. Tony Ortiz with the update.
WXYT FM and WXYT HD1 Detroit. An Odyssey station. Sports headlines. All day, every day. From the Sold by Mike Z Sports Desk. This is 97.1. The Ticket.
This update is sponsored by Miller Landscaping. After an off day yesterday, the Tigers will continue a 6
6-game road trip tonight with the first of 4 against the Chicago White Sox. Casey Mize will hit the ball for game 1. The White Sox will counter with 6-1 Lance Lynn. Our coverage of the game will start at 7:50. Meanwhile, according to CBS Sports' John Heyman, by the end of the week, 21 of Major League Baseball's 30 teams will have reached the 85% COVID-19 vaccination threshold that was set by officials at the beginning of the season. The Red Wings will have the number 6 overall pick in next month's entry draft. That's according to the order, which was determined by the NHL at its draft lottery last night in New Jersey. The Buffalo Sabres won the lottery and will get the number 1 overall pick. In the Stanley Cup playoffs last night, Colorado beats Vegas in overtime 3-2. Montreal downs Winnipeg 5-3. Over in the NBA playoffs, Atlanta defeats the New York Knicks 103-89. Philadelphia beats Washington 129-112. Utah defeats Memphis 126-110. Dallas knocks off the LA Clippers 105-100. Meanwhile, 3 men with ties to our area. Michigan's Juwan Howard, former Piston Chauncey Billups, and former UDM standout and now Phoenix Suns assistant coach Willie Green are reportedly some of the names that have been rumored as possible candidates to become the next head coach of the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are looking for a new coach after Brad Stevens was promoted yesterday to director of basketball operations. From the Ticket Update Desk, I'm Tony Ortiz. For more, stay tuned to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
Live from the J.D. Samuelson Studio, Stoney and Jansen on 97.1 The Ticket.
You know how Twitter works. Once something happens, people come up with ideas and people argue about it, call a person an idiot. But a name that came out almost immediately from some people on Twitter, just I think, fans, followers, nobody, no media people or anything like that, for the Celtics job, for the coaching job, Juwan Howard.
Yeah.
That was mentioned. And the laughability thing was that people actually thought that the Michigan job was better than the Celtics job. Please.
No.
Please.
You go to a lot of pro. It's just people that don't understand the benefits of being a pro coach.
Yes.
And,
it's his alma mater. Yes, his kid plays for him now, and his better son probably will play for him. So I think in like 5-6 years, when the Howard children are done, is the time when he's going to go. I know,
he continues to have success like this. You're going to hear this on a yearly basis. And you mentioned it. His son plays for him right now. He has things rolling along. I think Juwan is aware enough to understand timing and to understand that if he continues to do what he does here, he'll be able to at some point pick where he wants to go. And not necessarily the ultimate job, but the one that fits him best in a good situation.
One thing about him, I was thinking with the Coach K thing, and then the Roy Williams, Hubert Davis is replacing him this year. There may be a window here. Duke and Carolina, they could lose some luster.
Yeah.
I mean, they're perennial blue bloods. I get it, but we've seen them take dips, and not really Duke because Coach K's been there forever, but Carolina when Dean Smith left. It doesn't automatically mean it's going to keep moving.
I know, and especially, look, Duke before Coach K, I mean, they went to the Final Four in, 78, with Jim Spinard called Mike Jerminski and that team. And they had some good years, in a way.
86, that was Coach K was there. That was the Billy's team.
Right, but even before that, they were always, around, but they were never dominant until Krzyzewski got there. So you're right, you wonder what's going to happen. And, you talk about, replacing the guy, replacing the legend. I don't know if I want to be John Shire. You want to be the guy, I remember when John Wooden left. I there were so many guys who could replace him. I think Gene Bartow was the first guy who was at South Alabama, and then it was somebody else, Cunningham. Anyway, you want to be the guy who replaces the guy, replace the guy.
You want to be Roy Williams, not Brad Doherty.
Matt Doherty.
Or Matt Doherty.
Guthridge was first. Then he left, and then Matt Doherty, and then Well, exactly. You want to be. I don't know. Would it be Dan? You want to be Dan Dickerson. You don't want to be Rick Riz, who plays Ernie. Right? I mean,
exactly.
You don't want to be the guy who follows the legend.
Don't want to be Brian Greasy.
Stoney, I do hear what you're saying. At the same time, if you're good enough, you're going to be good enough.
I know.
Aaron Rodgers did it.
That's true.
And from a athletics perspective, while you're never probably going to measure up to what Krzyzewski did,
Correct.
or on the playing side like an Elway, Tom Brady leaving New England, but you, in your mind, you're up for that challenge. You want that challenge. You want to. I would want to be the guy that follows that guy because I think as competitors you think I can do it. I can be that one that follows him.
I understand. Look, sometimes the coach and waiting thing like this has worked. I mean, it worked for Tom Izzo.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you ask me.
Like I said, I think when you got a new coach replacing a legend college hoops, I think it creates just the tiniest of holes where you might lose a recruit that you wouldn't have lost. And that's opportunity for other coaches out there.
I totally agree with you. Here's some ticket texts. Saban, Belichick, Phil Jackson, Scotty Bowman, Coach K. Okay.
It's a good list.
Yep. Tim and Hal. Carol Hutchins, Michigan softball.
Would be really hard to argue that.
Yeah, but
it's not a very visible sport, and so you don't hear a lot about it. But she has been as dominant. I mean, she's an all-time winner in women's college softball.
Scotty Bowman always had good players because good players want to play for good coaches. I don't know if I missed it. I know it's another basketball one, but Greg Popovich. Yes, Pop has done a great job. I mean, look, they were helped out by, the weird way David Robinson getting hurt.
Say there's good players want to play for Phil Jackson too.
Yeah,
they did. I mean, Michael is the one that made the move.
Yes,
to get rid of Doug Collins.
That's true. Best coach of all time is Saban. Nobody has done what he has done at that level in that type of conference for this long. He owns the most competitive conference in any sport at any level, and he's done it the right way. No sanctions, no investigations. They had a little problem a little bit, didn't
There's
they?
always some question
Yeah.
marks.
All he does is win and wins at an elite level. Saban and the conversation. He's right there when it comes to college football. He's number one as far as I'm concerned.
In college football, I don't think there's much of a debate about that.
Herb Brooks, greatest coaching achievement of all time.
So I had him on my list because
he was very successful in college hockey too.
He was, but his record wasn't what you would look at and say a dominant coach. But he was able to come up with one of the greatest coaching, I guess you could call it a performance of all time.
No doubt.
Maybe the greatest coaching performance.
Look, this guy doesn't that I'm going to bring up doesn't belong in the greatest ever. But I think he was a great coach and left maybe something on the table. I think Jimmy Johnson.
That's the next one on the ticket text here, Gov.
He didn't build a Miami program, but he took it to the next level. He only got one national title there, but he kind of built for Erickson. He left it, and then he goes to the Cowboys and won quick.
Yes, Jimmy Johnson with the University of Miami, then Cowboys, underrated. Now, he didn't do great with the Dolphins, but...
And he should be credited with 3 Super Bowls, because if you watch... the NFL Network's 1995 1-hour special on America's Game, where it features the Cowboys. I mean, he had nothing to do with it. I mean, they trash him on that show. I've never seen anything quite like it. They mock him.
So, I mean, now that we're talking about some NFL coaches.
Okay, you mentioned the tree.
Yeah,
it's Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh. There's no question. Yeah. Because, everybody wants to talk about Bill Belichick. And he's got, 6 Super Bowls. And he himself has been very successful. But who has fallen off that tree that's been good?
Nobody yet as far as winning. I mean, Joe Judge has potential.
Right.
Brian Flores
down in Miami has potential.
McDaniels failed. Obviously, we know Patricia failed.
Nobody's come off that tree, but
Bill O'Brien might be the most successful, and that's shady.
Right, but we're still to this day talking about coaches from the Bill Walsh tree.
Correct.
At the next stop sign, turn left.
Andy Reid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Bill Walsh's tree has other trees growing out.
Yes, right, because I was just going to say, you mentioned Andy Reid.
His tree.
Mike
Holmgren.
Yes. I mean, you go down the list. Gruden. And
Gruden,
not as successful, but he was in San Francisco, but he's part of it.
Yeah.
And the West Coast offense as well.
Yeah.
Right. He brought a new phase
Right.
into, when it was humming along, it was a good offense.
Oh, it was really good.
And now there's modifications of that, but he was, I think, and not just an innovator in being able to win, and he had great players as well in Montana and Rice and Roger Craig and great offensive lines, great defenses.
Turn right onto Avalon Drive.
He was a great coach of coaches.
Now, we haven't gotten to baseball yet. I mean, I don't particularly love this human being, and we've trashed him recently. Tony La Russa.
Yes. Yeah,
he won, whether you want to say, he won in St. Louis because McGuire was using, steroids or whatever, and even in Oakland with Canseco and McGuire. But he won with two different teams. He went to the ALCS with the White Sox back in the early 80s. They lost to the Orioles in 83. And now he's got a White Sox team that's, granted, a lot of talent there before he got there this year.
Right.
But then he's done it over decades. He is a terrific manager.
He is. And I want to ask you one on the baseball side of things. And I want to make sure that I'm not clouded in my thinking on this. Sparky Anderson.
The destination is on your right. 3065 Otter Drive. Arrived.
Probably. Could he have won more in Cincinnati? Maybe. But yeah, Sparky's a great manager, obviously.
He was a terrific manager.
I don't think you can call him the best of all time.
Not the best of all time. I think you could call him one of the greatest of all time in baseball history.